how do you practically deal with the mind? So there's a wide range of things, such as I'm going to prepare tea. Now first I better boil the water. Okay. I just had a thought. Okay, I got to boil the water. So notice that I didn't have to go through a whole series of processes to come to I got to use the mind now. It's more that the mind is ordinarily we put it in a quiescent state, in a state where it's just resting. That to me is the key. So you don't have to do anything with the mind in that sense. Let it always be resting in a quiescent state. When needed, engage. And it will be pretty obvious. It's not like some big thing has to happen. It's just like we would use a GPS or any other functional thing. Like we have our toothbrush. How much do we have to think? When do I really use my toothbrush? It's not a big deal. When you feel like, yeah, it's morning, I need to clean my teeth, the toothbrush is obviously the thing to use. It's more like that. It's like, maybe I have a presentation to give tomorrow. Okay, I might think what would be the theme of that presentation or what are the key ideas of the presentation. So you do engage with the mind. You don't turn it into the mind is a bad guy. That's totally not the case. It's just that we have turned it into a bad guy. That's the problem. The mind inherently is not a bad guy. But sadly, we have wrongly engaged with the mind and it has become a bad guy. It's not inherently bad. So now we restoring it to its original, what it's meant for. So we don't turn to it for the big questions and the big insights. So we don't entertain it so much. So if like, some question might be, my mind is asking blah. Doesn't matter, let that go. The mind is asking, let it go. What is your heart feeling is the more important thing. The mind always has one more thing it has to feel like it has to resolve. So we let that go. We don't turn the mind into the Joint Chief of Staff, who's going to be the person in charge of the entire military operation. No, just let it be a foot soldier. Again, that's yet another analogy, but turn it into just when it needs, bring it out. So for me, it's not like I go through some big process to see when to engage the mind. When it's, okay, here's an email from the accountant, and the accountant is saying, well, I need some of these documents and receipts and some spreadsheets, and like, okay, I better put that together. And to do that, I will need some thinking, and I might use some tools. I might say, let me collect my thoughts here. Let me start up a Google Doc, start noting what are the major expenses from last year, major this, major that. So naturally, some mind is involved. And after I'm done with that, I'm not sitting around thinking now about it. That's where we get into trouble with the mind and with emotions. See, emotions are absolutely wonderful. There's absolutely nothing wrong. It's just that I get angry and then I keep on staying angry for days and weeks and months. Now that emotion has turned into a problem because I'm now stuck to that emotion. Ordinarily, you may get a flash of anger. It's there, it's gone. No problem. Or any other positive emotion too. It's there, it's gone. No problem. Similarly with the mind, you engage, take care of whatever, done. So this is very clear. If it lingers on and you start thinking, or the most troublesome thing is, I have some free time, let me think about this. Now this is where we get about it into trouble. We're like, there's absolutely we are basically saying, let me consult my chief consultant, the mind. This is real trouble. Because now at that moment, we have elevated the mind to the chief consultant, joint chief of staff, whatever you want to call it. That's not its job. And we are now turning it into that, and it'll give us some things which is basically going to put us in some loop, cause us concern, worry, all kinds of things which we don't want. So don't stir the pot. Basically, the mind and emotions can stir up things. We don't have to go there. Another way of responding is if inspiration is leading you down a certain path and the mind is needed, certainly bring the mind into the picture, use it. But it's always clear that it's in the service of this thing, this bigger thing. Not me just sitting and pondering and worrying. Yeah. So if you actually do that, you'll find that more than 80% of thoughts actually just go away. Because most of it is as idle processing. It's like, well, I'm just driving. Well, let me think about what happened in the meeting today. Okay. And driving back home from work, and so on and so forth. There's always something to think about. If you decide I'm going to think, there's always material. Instead, the answer is mostly two things. When you start feeling that, number one, if there's an underlying emotion that's like, I felt something in that meeting today afternoon and something's not sitting well, release is the answer. What is needed is not thinking, but release. So get in touch with that feeling, which is causing some trouble, and feel it, release it, feel it, release it, feel it, release it. No need to think. Instead of going down the path of thinking, go down the path of release, and post-release, just be. Just be. So let that be the more default state you go towards whenever you have a gap. And it turns out most of our day is full of gaps, and most of our life is full of gaps. When you start really seeing it, you'll be in pretty good shape if you do that. Don't think you have to be perfect. I don't think anybody is perfect in terms of like the mind or anything. Occasionally you have a stray thought. Don't judge yourself. It's fine. No perfection needed. When you choose light, life becomes increasingly joyful, purposeful, and inspired. I invite you to join me to explore the realms of light, the infinite possibilities that light offers.